In a city called the City of Shadows, street wars were raging among its residents. Every day brought fear and anxiety as local teams struggled to gain control of what they wanted. Different laws and values have disappeared. Violence and blood are the only masters of the streets. One night, the air was filled with tension and anticipation of a great battle. The Nightmares gang, considered more lethal and brutal, were trying to take over the Deep Shadows neighborhood, which had ideal hideouts and hiding places for their gangs. When the battle began, the streets turned into a real battlefield, with bullets flying and glass shattering. The terrifying sounds of mines and bombs served as background music to this disaster. When the battle began, the streets turned into a real battlefield, with bullets flying and glass shattering. The terrifying sounds of mines and bombs served as background music to this disaster. On a dark street, a member of the Nightmares gang was walking around, gun in hand, swinging in the darkness like a monster ready to attack. His eyes were watching any movement, as if he was searching for prey. Suddenly, he heard strange events and faint sounds coming from one of the houses. He decided to head towards the sound to check out the location. When he entered the house, Layla and Ali confronted him. Layla did not have a weapon, but she was trying in every way to protect her son. The atmosphere was filled with tension and fear, as the man was speaking loudly and threatening Layla and her child. Suddenly, a fight started between them, and Layla was using everything in her power to protect her son and herself from this monster. While the fight was continuing at the house, the police went to the area after the police received reports of the incidents. Upon their arrival, they were able to control the situation and arrest the man. After this bloody battle, Layla and Ali were in shock, but they were alive and safe. This night was just a reminder of the horror that street wars can cause and how innocent people can be affected by these terrible events. The next day, life in the City of Shadows continued as if nothing had happened, but the lingering memory of this terrifying night would haunt many of the city's residents forever. In the days following the battle, the wars became more violent and brutal in the City of Shadows. Gangs began to use new methods to control territory and resources, worsening the situation and increasing the number of casualties. The streets have become devoid of life during certain hours of the night, and many areas have become But in the midst of this darkness and chaos, spots of hope and resilience began to emerge. Groups of local volunteers and activists began working together to provide support to local residents and protect them from violence. They create safe havens and educational programs for youth to offer positive alternatives to life. In this context, Layla decided to join these initiatives and contribute to making her city a safer place for their children. She began working with a group of local women to hold knitting and sewing workshops to provide a source of income for local families. While the wars are still ongoing, local residents are beginning to unite to confront and change this situation. Peaceful demonstrations and social campaigns began to emerge as residents demanded an end to the violence and the establishment of peace and stability in the city. Over time, these initiatives began to show results, as many young people began to join the educational and training programs offered by local groups, reducing the numbers of young men joining gangs and armed groups. One day, the city was able to achieve one of its biggest victories, as a truce agreement was reached between local gangs mediated by civil society and government agencies. Life gradually began to return to normal, and safety and stability returned to the streets. But the memory has not been erased, and that night spent by Layla and Ali remains a permanent reminder of the urgent necessity of cooperation and unity to face challenges and search for peace and stability. This story embodies the reality and horror of civil wars, but it also embodies hope, resilience, and the ability to overcome